This is Studio 809.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I'm your host, Hiking Bob Falcone, and you can find me on my website at hikingbob.com. And all the links, everything are there. Social media, contact me, sign up for my newsletter, all of that at hikingbob.com. I won't bore you with all the details. Take some time. Go look it up. And links are in the show notes, so you can find everything there. Joining me today is my co-host, Wild Westendorf. Hey, Kevin.
Hey everyone, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Wild Westendorf and on my website at wildwestendorf.com, which I'm currently working on a revamp of just to change like how the site looks and everything. Be on the lookout for that.
So, Kevin, I'm spending some time down in Arizona. We just got here last week in between the last couple of, the last podcast and this one. And so we're down in Arizona enjoying some nice weather. But I'll tell you, it was kind of weird weather this week. We got here Tuesday afternoon, and the weather has been obviously not cold by Colorado standards at all, obviously, but cold by Phoenix standards, even for February, which we've come down here in February for years. It was in like the 50s most of the week as a high, blustery, rainy, which the rain is great. But it's been kind of like yick weather. And now we're recording this a few days before it airs. We're finally getting into seasonable weather in the 70s. But I will tell you, the desert looks very green. The flowers are popping up. I will be spending a lot of time on my belly crawling through the desert, taking pictures of wildflowers. Actually, yesterday I was on my belly taking pictures of not a rattlesnake. It was a giant bull snake that was stretched out. And bull snakes look at first glance a lot like a rattlesnake, but once you get a better look at them, they're much bigger than a rattlesnake typically. And there's other things that to give them away, one of which they don't rattle because they don't have rattles. But I end up spending some time on my belly taking the beautiful picture of the face of this beautiful bull snake that was sunning himself on the trail. Itself, I don't know, him, her. What pronoun does a snake use? I have no idea. I wouldn't even know how to check. But in any case, so I got pictures of this rattlesnake, and I'm sorry, I keep saying rattlesnake, a bull snake. I'm hoping to see rattlesnakes. I in the next couple of months when I'm down here, I'll guarantee I see at least one, maybe two rattlesnakes on the trail someplace. It happens every year that I'm down here. Did not happen when we were down here for Christmas, but I didn't expect it. But I did see one when we were down here last Thanksgiving, which was very unusual, but there was a big honking one on the trail. So we'll be seeing some rattlesnakes down here. In the meantime, we're enjoying baseball. It's spring training. We went to the Rockies opening spring training game the other day, and that was fun. Mostly because the Rockies got beat, and as you know, the first of 100-game losses they're going to have this year, and they're just going to stink. They're going to stink on ice like they typically do. But we are going to go see some games. This year is the World Baseball Classic, and we're going to see one game with the Chicago Cubs playing the Italian national team. Go Italy! And then we're going to see a Rockies game where they're playing the U.S. national team. So. That's going to be kind of fun. So we're going to see some games and do some photography and do some hiking. And this year we brought both vehicles down here. We kind of caravan them because we spend the night, halfway down. So now I have a little more flexibility on moving around and taking pictures and doing some hikes. So I'm going to try to hit a lot of places on my bucket list for a while, but we're hard to manage with one car and shuffling car and who gets the car and who doesn't get the car. And, and there have been some years when we were down here, I rented a car for a week. And just tried to squeeze that in. But now we actually just brought both of our cars. We're going to be here for a couple of months. Might as well bring both cars and just going to take it from there. So, Kevin, what's up with you? What do you got planned? You mentioned before we started recording that you got a trip yourself planned.
So a week from when this podcast airs, I will be in Las Vegas, which is my hometown. So I've gone back to Vegas every few years or so for many, many, many years, for family stuff. And this time I'm going back for a cousin's wedding, and it's a cousin that I adore. So I'm very, very stoked for it. And I decided, like, I haven't been to the Grand Canyon in a while, so I'm gonna so the Grand Canyon North or South Rim entrance, it's almost exactly 4 hours away from Vegas. So I'm gonna be heading down to the Grand Canyon. I'm gonna stay a couple nights in the town of Williams, which is famous for a song, I think from the Eagles. I think Bob, you would know
No,
more.
you're thinking Winslow,
Winslow, okay.
which is
I
about an
am
hour and a
wrong.
half the
Okay.
other direction. Williams, though, is a quaint little town right on old Route 66.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna actually be staying in a repurposed train car.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a motel that like they have their standard motel like rooms, and then they have a bunch of train cars and cabooses that have been repurposed to be rooms. So, and I'm a huge fan of unique hotel and motel stays and such, which is what I did last year. So when I found out about this hotel, thanks to a friend who her and her husband and her kid went on a trip and did the Grand Canyon after part of it. Uh, they stayed at this place, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I've got to stay there." Um, and she shared a bunch of photos of the room, and she shared a bunch of like she has shared a review that was really really good. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna stay out there. My itinerary so far is to do a little hike in Oak Creek Canyon, which is halfway between Flagstaff and Sedona. And I did a part of that hike in 2018 before I did my big, huge hike in the Grand Canyon. So I want to go back and I want to do the entire hike. And then the day after my Grand Canyon hike, I want to go to the Petrified National Forest, or the Petrified, sorry, the Petrified Forest National Park. Because I remember driving through it in 2018 and wishing I had made the extra time to stop and just hike around. So I think Oak Creek Canyon and Petrified Forest will both be good, easy hikes to do to see some really pretty spots before and after the big hike that I do in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, Petrified Forest is over in Holbrook, which is probably about 2 hours east of Flagstaff. And it's right off of I-40. There's Petrified Forest National Park and Painted Desert National Park, and I think they just butt up against each other. And I think they're all managed as one unit.
Oh, okay.
And that's in Holbrook, and that's actually where as we drive out here, we spend the night in Grants, New Mexico, which is right about the halfway point. And what we started doing the last couple of trips is instead of going all the way out I-40 to Flagstaff and then I-17 down to Phoenix, we cut off at Holbrook and go through the town of Payson. And it's only shorter by minutes, but it's so much less stressful of a drive because of the craziness on I-40 and all the semis. And then
Yeah.
I-17, where everybody drives like they're being chased by Godzilla or something like that. So it's barely, I mean, it time-wise, it's a wash. But it's obviously a much prettier trip. If you've ever been to Payson, it's up in the mountains, 7,000 plus feet. Matter of fact, there was a little snow there when we came through here on this trip. But it's a beautiful little town and a very beautiful area, very wooded. Looks a lot like Colorado, including at the altitude. I mean, it's far above where the saguaros are and the cactus. You don't see them for hours as you're coming out of there. But it's a really nice place. So, but we've gone through Holbrook a bunch. And what I want to do one of these summers, and maybe this summer, is spend some time in Grants. And there's a national park there, a national monument, El Malpais National Monument, and then go to Holbrook and spend a day or two and spend a little time at the Petrified Forest and Painted Desert and do some hiking in there. And there's about an hour and a half maybe 2-hour drive between Grants and Holbrook to get from one to the other. So theoretically, I could spend it in Gallup, which is kind of halfway between the two of them, and just move an hour one way for one day and an hour the other way. And I don't know, I'll have to figure out the logistics of it. But I've been wanting to go to the place. Right now, we just breeze by them, but I need to stop and check those out. So I can't wait to hear about your trip and see what you think of those places. The West Fork of the Oak Creek is a beautiful hike. I've done a segment of it, and as you've done before, and it's a beautiful hike. And I did it in the fall one year, and it was absolutely gorgeous. But you may have to get there early because it's crazy busy, and it's getting ready to be spring break time here in Arizona. So it might be a little. Sedona gets nuts. Yeah, Sedona is absolutely crazy in March. So you might want to get up real early in Williams and drive down there before it gets too crazy, because the parking area there is small, and they waste no time just closing the gate and telling you, tough luck, pal, come back another day.
And I actually have a story to tell you. I probably don't want to publicly talk about this story.
This is a good one. I got to hear it.
After this.
Okay.
But a part
Folks,
of it
if it's really good, I'll let you in on some hints later.
But it does include the fact that when I did the hike, I ran into a stranger, Jessica, and she started to talk to me, and we started talking, and so we did the hike, and I made a longtime friend from 2018, and I thought that was really cool. Like it just kind of shows how the outdoors can kind of allow you to meet people and make friends and stuff. But yeah, we've stayed in touch since then. I'm just gonna wait for the other part of that story for after this podcast.
Okay. This should be pretty good. Well, it's good. I mean, you meet people out there. I've met people out here that I've stayed in contact with and hook up with and stuff like that. There's a group of photographers down here that they have a meetup like in April, and I go to see them. And from that, the photographer community is a pretty small one and pretty tight. So I met a lot of photographers there who I've known by name and reputation. Their stuff is outstanding, and I've had a chance to meet them. So, it's cool how that connects everybody, and we all get to meet each other. So, it's a lot of fun. So it's I get where you're coming from. I hear what I don't know what the rest of it is, but it sounds pretty interesting. but now all the listeners are like, damn it, Kevin, spill the beans, and like, I'm not going to spill the beans. That's up to Kevin to do. But in any case,
I'm just trying to not encourage bad behavior. I'm not saying I was behaving badly, but I'm just not trying to spread I'm not trying to accidentally encourage that.
Well,
so, yeah,
everybody probably appreciates that. I appreciate it. Try not to encourage bad behavior. Well, Kevin, let's move on to the news and what's going on. So as we saw, and I put it in my social media on Facebook a couple of days ago and in the newsletter that went out on Sunday, but the Colorado Springs Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services Department not only took a pretty big hit going into this year on its budget, but then got hit with more cuts just recently. And it's almost as bad as it was during the recession. And I'm trying to figure out how it got to be that bad, because obviously this is not as bad as a recession. And I'll be honest with you, my comments regarding this were not very nice. I don't know if it's understandably, I am rather irate over this. And I want to make it very clear, though, from the start, I am not irate at the Parks Department. They are at the whim of the elected officials who dole out the funds. And once again, like we saw from a couple administrations ago, they have become the place where the city goes to first to pull all the money they need to fund other things when there's a shortage. So what they've had to do, and I'll go over just a quick list of things of what the Parks Department had been forced into doing. They are not opening the bathrooms in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different facilities. These are places that have permanent bathrooms. They're not opening them at all. And you can see the link on my Facebook, or if you go to my website and click on the newsletters, you can see it there. They're also not putting in portable restrooms, i.e. porta potties, in almost all the neighborhood parks, except for permanent events and scheduled sports programs. Now, before you think that's real magnanimous of them, that only happens because the people organizing those things have to pay for those to go in there. The nice, big, beautiful fountain at America the Beautiful Park will not be spewing any water this coming year. Let's see. The discontinued contracted landscape bed maintenance in parks, which means no nice flowers in the parks. Mowing, fertilizer, and weed control applications are being reduced. They've run out or reduced funding for vandalism and theft repairs, which means all these buttheads who go out there and do damage, there's no money to fix what they're breaking. Playground repairs and resurfacing has been reduced by 50%. 50% reduction in pothole and asphalt repairs. This is pretty devastating stuff. And, it's obviously I'm not the least bit happy about this. I understand that our elected officials have a tough job, and of which they get paid a whole $7,000 a year for, by any measure, what is a big city. And I doubt that the city, the elected officials told them what cuts to make, but they just told them you're getting less money and you figure out where to make the cuts. And this is where the Parks Department decided to make these cuts. Doesn't sound like they're laying off anybody, so jobs are intact. That's a good thing. But it's just, what I said in my comments on on my social media feed was that, and I want to be very careful. This does not necessarily apply to all our elected officials, but by and large, they make a lot of lip service about how important our parks are, and that's all well and good. They consider critical infrastructure and stuff like that until it's time to make cuts, and that's the first place they hack at. And I'll be honest with you, that kind of pisses me off, and I think it pissed off a lot of people. There are a lot of unhappy replies to my comments. I didn't find anybody defending it, and that's okay. If you want to defend it, that's fine. Defend it. I don't care. Kevin, all I ask when people make comments on social media is A, be accurate, and B, don't be personally attacking anybody. But it's the first place. I mean, the mayor actually sets the budget, and the city council rubber stamps it, and I think they have a limited ability to make changes to it. But I had the mayor, our current mayor Yemi, on this podcast a year or more ago. I gave him some time after he got elected. I don't believe in waiting till they first get elected and have him on the podcast and say, what are you going to do? I gave him a good 6-8 months before I had him on the podcast, and he was all over how great the parks are and how critical they are. And now look where we're at. And the other thing that really irritated me, and I didn't make a big deal about this, but last year, toward the end of 2025, and I'd have to go find the post, there was a big post on the city's Facebook page, the city government Facebook page, about all the accomplishments that the city did in 2025, hiring more firefighters, hiring more police officers, paving more roads. You know what there was zero mention of at all in that list of accomplishments? Not one mention of anything related to the Parks Department. Not a one. Nothing about... I
did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. And from what I heard through the grapevine, that did not go unnoticed by people in the Parks Department and did not go over well with people in the Parks Department. So you can pay all the lip service you want about how important your parks are, but when you hack at them probably worse than anybody else, and then you don't even mention them in the list of accomplishments of the city. You're showing, if you're an elected official, you're showing your true colors. You could talk all you want, but in reality, you really don't give a flying what about the Parks Department. The city relies on tourism. It relies on visitors. It relies on people who want to come live here because of the standard of living, which is directly attached to how many how many parks we have and our open spaces and all that stuff. But in reality, you really don't care. I mean, obviously they don't care. Nobody's being creative. Nobody's trying to figure out a way to fund things. Nobody's trying to, we ask people to go to our parks and we're not going to even give them a place to go to the bathroom. And it's one thing for an adult, but what do you do with kids? Some of these parks are not neighborhood parks where you might live a block away. You can go home. Some of these are parks like in my neighborhood, which have baseball fields and tennis courts where people are driving from across town to go visit. And, where do you expect them to go? They're not going to come knock on my door and ask to go to the bathroom. They're not going to knock on anybody's door. So what are they going to do? Plus, when you have a atmosphere that makes it look like nobody cares about your parks, people who have less than honorable motivation will think that nobody cares about their park, and they can destroy things. And Kevin, you know what happened when some buttheads, I think I recorded them as sociopaths, did a hell of a lot of damage at Venezia Park, which was brand new at the time, not even a park that was neglected or anything. And I put up money for the reward to get them caught. What's going to happen at all our parks? I think it's narrow-minded, it's short-sighted, it is detrimental. We have not. Here's the other thing people don't know, and if you haven't lived, here's the advantage I have, and you have, Kevin, of living here quite a while, as opposed to people who may have been here only 10 or 15 years. If you were not here during the recession, you don't know how bad things got for our Parks Department. But here's the thing people don't know. The Parks Department percentage of funding out of the general tax fund is still below where it was prior to the recession.
Which is why the new cuts are just insane to me.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. We are still funding them for less money than they got in, 2008? And the city was smaller then by a couple 100,000 people. And we're still not funding them to that level, even though we have a bigger footprint. The city's bigger, the footprint's bigger, there's more parks, there's more trails, there's more open spaces, and we still haven't gotten there. So to our elected officials, don't insult anybody's intelligence. Don't tell us you think parks are important. If you think parks are important, figure out a way to do a better job. Because right now, to be honest with you, for the most part, and I'm going to get a call from one of them saying that's not true for me, that's fine. Go on the record and say it's not true for you. I'm not going to be your mouthpiece. But here's the thing. You're doing a crappy job. You're doing a shitty job. And you're just, you're insulting not only the citizens who want these parks and want nice amenities, but you're also insulting the staff of the Parks Department that bust their ass. And now they're going to have to bust it even more to make up for the money you're not giving them to do their job. Find a way to do better, because right now you stink at it. And to be honest with you, I don't give a flying damn if I make anybody mad, because it's irritating to me. Now, I'll start off by saying that I understand public safety is important. As you know, Kevin, I spent 40 years in public safety. As a firefighter, as an EMT, and law enforcement, I understand that parks, that's important. But here's the other thing I understand. When you have parks that deteriorate, when you have parks that don't have services, and then your crime rate's actually going to go up, because people are going to see those parks being deteriorated, and they're not going to care. They're going to think nobody cares what's going on there, and their vandalism is going to go up. The opportunity for any type of crime is going to go up. You're not helping your public safety people by letting your parks be run down like they're going to be this year. And who knows how many years they're going to take to get back from this. So, yeah, if it sounds like I'm pretty mad, well, you know what? You're right. I am pretty mad. And look at my Facebook page and see the comments I posted on there. Everybody's pretty upset. Nobody's happy about this. And I think they're happy because they feel like they've been lied to by our mayor and by our city officials, who just think, well, we're going to make parks important. And then until we have to make a tough decision, then we're just going to screw the Parks Department over. I really don't know how people, I don't know how they work there. I will tell you, I'm proud of them. I'm impressed by them. I'm in awe of them that they keep going despite the insult that's paid to them by a mayor who can't even mention one thing about accomplishments that the Parks Department did last year. And then to have this thrown at them, they have my eternal gratitude and respect for keep going back to work. But I do not know how the hell they do it. I really don't. They complain about people being poached. I always joked about when somebody left our department to go to either another city department or to go to another city and work, and I was complaining we ought to put up a no poaching sign out in front of the city parks department so they don't take our people. But I'll say this, I never blamed them if they had a better opportunity, and by God, if they have a better opportunity now, I wouldn't blame anybody if they took it. So, Kevin, I'm sorry, I've been on my I've been on my rant here for a few minutes, but I'm just incensed by this last insult to our parks department. And when that stuff happened during the recession, I was not involved in parks like I've been in the last 12 years. 6 years at county parks, 6 years with city parks. Being a volunteer and being on friends groups and things like that. I've actually become more aware of the challenges they face, and I guess it makes me even madder than it did before. So, Kevin, your thoughts? And if you disagree with me, or you think I'm half off base, or fully off base, or flying off the handle, let me know. But interested what you think.
I think parks should be banned. And no, I'm kidding. But a part of why I love living on the west side of town, and I know many other areas of town have like a bunch of parks and stuff, but I know where my mom lives, which is far out east, Mark Shovel and Dublin. There's not a lot of parks. So a part of why I love living on the west side of town is because there are parks everywhere. I just moved, as you can tell with my background. That's a painting of me.
Very scary.
I know, which is why I'm covering it. But it's above the recliner, which is my throne. So,
folks, you can't see this, and thank your lucky stars.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
But I am very, very close to Gardener of the Gods, and I am very close to I'm forgetting the names, but there's a huge park just like a few blocks away. There's an open space that's really close by, that's like 2 blocks away.
Oh, you're talking Sonderman Park, not too far from where you're at.
Yes.
Beautiful open space.
Yeah, it's great. I don't like what they did with expanding Centennial to like destroy a part of that open space, but it's a great spot. But I understand the frustration with the lack of bathroom spaces, because I have a lot of like I'm at that age where I have a lot of friends with parents who or I've got a lot of friends who are parents with kids who are very young, and they can't just go a block away to go use the bathroom and stuff, and it's an insult, I think. And the word that you used in your post was disgraceful.
Yeah.
I agree with that because it's disgraceful, and it's an insult to our reputation, our image as a city. Because I understand times get tough, but as a city, we pride ourselves on our outdoor access, and then we call ourselves Olympic City, USA or whatever, and it's kind of like, well, we're not following through on that. We're not trying to find ways to adjust the budget and such to make that the case. And I understand cuts have to be have to be made sometimes. But I feel like in this scenario, it's like you had mentioned in your post, like a lot of our elected officials have just made a lot of lip service, and it's disappointing.
Yep. Every administration faces their own challenges. When the recession hit, our mayor at the time was our first strong mayor. We had just voted in the strong mayor, quote unquote, system of government, which we still fall under. And he got hit by a recession. I get it. But he took the cleaver to the Parks Department far worse than it even is now. Like I said, we haven't even recovered from how badly he took the cleaver to the Parks Department. Our second strong mayor, Mayor Suthers, who did 2 terms, faced some challenges, most of that to do with COVID and cutting of revenue because, shopping was affected, tourism was affected. But I'll say this for him, he pretty much told all the departments you're all taking an equal cut. And that was police, fire, public works, parks. So even though there are cuts to be made and nobody squawked about it because everybody got it, at least there the cuts were equal across the board. Now we're back to not quite the cleaver that we had during the recession, but we're back to where, well, screw the parks. We don't need them. And we'll be happy to just chop away at the Parks Department. And if you're an elected official in Colorado Springs and you listen to this and you think I'm wrong or you want to have at me, give me a call, send me an email. Most of you have my number, know how to get a hold of me. I'll be glad to have you on here and you could tell me I'm wrong all day. And then prove it. Figure out a way to make this happen. We are in February and we're going to deal with this for the next 10 months of the year. Let's not forget that part. We're at the beginning of the fiscal year. So we have 10 months, 9.5 months, whatever you want to call it, to deal with the rest of this stuff. So good luck with how that's going to go. I personally don't, we have 10 months. I'm not optimistic at all that this will get any better. And, part of the problem, Kevin, and I'm going to lay some of this back on you and me and the citizens and the voters, is Colorado Springs' budget is 65% based on sales tax, not property tax. And people might complain about their property tax bill, but most people probably look at the bottom line of the property tax bill and don't look at all the lines at the top of it, which how much they pay to different things. So I'll tell you, if you look at your property tax bill and look at how much, I have a house worth, according to them, around $300,000. Trust me, it's not worth that much. It's inflated, but regardless. My portion of the city of Colorado Springs property tax, I think it's lucky if it even hits $100 out of a tax bill of over $1,000. Most of that goes to the school district, which takes up most of it. And then a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit some other departments. And a lot of people who are listening to this and live in Colorado Springs live in special metro districts that they elected to move into, that pay for funding, that pay for things within their little neighborhood. I'm going to guarantee a big chunk of that money stays within their own metro district and doesn't go to the city of Colorado Springs. So if you look at your tax bill and you're complaining about how much it is, look at all the little details of where your property tax bill actually goes. And you'll be surprised at how little of it goes actually to the city of Colorado Springs. People hate to do anything with property taxes. They rather pay for things with sales taxes. The problem with sales tax is that it's a very volatile thing. Your property tax bill comes at the beginning of the year. City knows how much money they're going to get. The county knows how much money they're going to get from property taxes. And bing, you paid up front. Your sales tax depends on if you have a storm, if you have a recession, if you have an epidemic, if you have something that happens and all of a sudden people don't come visit, your sales tax plummets. The problem is when the city spends money in June that they were budgeted and then finds out that in July that money didn't come in, but they don't know about it till August because it takes a couple months to figure it out, they're already in the hole. You know what I mean? Because it takes that long to figure out you didn't actually collect all that sales tax money because nobody came and visited. Or for whatever reason, sales tax revenue is down. So you're digging yourself in a hole without even knowing you're doing it until you're 2 months down the road. And it's just too volatile way to do it. I call on the taxpayers to demand that city council slowly, it would take a while to do this, pull back from being sales tax based, slowly decrease the sales tax revenue and increase the property tax so that at least it's more stable. And I know people are going to be screaming bloody murder about this, and I don't care, but this is how you avoid this kind of stupid stuff from happening. Because I'm telling you, when you're property tax based, you can know a year or two down the line what's going on. You can start planning for it. But when you're sales tax based, you could be behind for months and not even know it till all the accounting catches up. And I think that's part of the problem. And I get people saying, I already pay too much in my property tax. No, you probably pay too much in your metro district property tax. And we could have a long talk about how much the school district, which seems to have declining enrollment and wants to close schools, yet every year wants more money. I haven't figured that out yet. But yet none of it ever seems to go to teachers' pay. Interesting. I voted against every recent tax increase by the school district until they actually put something on the ballot that says they're going to give teachers money that they're actually worth. But I'm flying off on a different tangent altogether. Anyway, I didn't want this to be a complete rant podcast, Kevin, but it's an important thing. We're coming into the tourism season, and spring break is around the corner, and then we're going to have summer and fall and all these things that bring people here. And what are we going to be showing them that the city of Colorado Springs does not really care about about having nice places for them to visit, about having safe places for them to visit, about them having clean places and pretty places for them to visit. Bring us your money, but we don't give a damn whether we look nice or not. We're just kind of, bring us your money, but our park looks like crap because we haven't watered it, we haven't seeded it, we haven't weeded it, and good luck taking a crap because we don't have bathrooms for you either. That's the message we're sending people. So this isn't just the citizens that are affected. These are the people we bring in here to help us pay for stuff that we're affecting. Short-sighted and stupid is the best way I can define this. And again, if you're a city councilor, listen to this. You think I'm wrong? Bring it on. I'll have you on here. I'll give you a half an hour to talk all you want about how stupid I am. Just be prepared to defend yourself. Kevin, go ahead.
And I feel like we have some of the best parks in the country. I mean, we have our neighborhood parks, obviously, but we also have North Cheyenne Canyon and Palmer Park and U Valley and stuff. But just the neighborhood parks alone, it just kind of sends a big FU to be family friendly, to not include like bathrooms and stuff at these parks, because these parks are the majority of these parks are very, very accessible for families. And I have seen a lot of comments from friends who have kids, and they're like, we have kids, we want to go to these parks, so it's not easy to just rush off a block away to home to use the restroom because we have a child and stuff. I know our property taxes are some of the lowest in the country. Probably my favorite American city is Chicago. And the parks there are amazing. They're incredible. And I know their property taxes are a lot higher, but and Chicago is a very different city than the Springs, but the experience I had there in their public parks was vastly different than here. And I think we could learn a thing or two from them. Um, obviously, I'm not saying all of the city is amazing, is great and great, but uh, there are parts of Chicago that are amazing, and it's because they are properly funded and maintained and cared for. So the fact that we're not doing the same thing is it it, it it's frustrating.
And you're right, Kevin. Now, I'll start by saying I don't want to pay the same type of property tax the city of Chicago pays by any stretch of the imagination. And I moved here from New Jersey to get away from incredibly high property taxes. I get it. Everybody lives here because it's a less expensive place to live. Has the property taxes gone up? Yes. And I hear people whine about that. Well, you know what? The price of every damn thing's gone up. So, it's what it is. But we should be doing better at what we're doing. And I want to drop in a quick note here because somebody on my Facebook post asked about didn't we just increase or didn't we vote to fund our parks? That vote that we last had that affected parks was for the trails and open space and parks tax, the TOPS tax. And just a real quick thing on that, it's 1 cent on every $10. It's a sales tax. But by law, as it was enacted, it is very tightly restricted as to what it can do. It is primarily intended to purchase and develop new open spaces. And while a very tiny amount can go to parks, it is a tiny, tiny amount. And in fact, in the last election, we voted to renew that tax for, was it 20 or 25 years? The voters also further restricted that it can't be used for anything other than, almost anything other than acquisition of new open spaces. So that money is out there. And during the recession, there was a move to try and get that money to be used to fund the Parks Department, but because of the very heavy restrictions on it, that couldn't happen. And let me make it clear too, it doesn't make that much money. It makes about between $9 and $11 million a year, where the city Parks Department budget is in the $30 million a year range. It doesn't make enough to fund the Parks Department. And it's not intended to do that. So yeah, the TOPS tax is still out there. It is still going to be collected. They're still going to use it to not only purchase open spaces, but develop those open spaces. And a little tiny, tiny bit might be doled out to parks here and there. But trust me, in the grand scheme of things, it is not enough to make up for all these things. And it's not to be used for, I don't think they can use it for funding porta potties or anything like that. It is very restricted, and it was further restricted after this last election. So yes, we did vote to fund the TOPS tax. It's a completely separate pot of money. And since this was a voter initiated and approved measure, the city government does not have the option to change the parameters of how it's spent, where it goes, what it's for, without going back to the voters. And I don't think anybody has any intention of doing that anytime in the near future. I would argue against it because it becomes this backdoor way of funding the Parks Department and relieving the city council even further of doing their job. So I just want to drop in that quick note. I served on that committee for 6 years and became very well versed in how it operates. And we voted to approve that. It's a great thing. It's one of the smarter things we've ever done. And we would be in worse shape if we didn't have it, because we wouldn't have half the open spaces that we have right now. So just as a side note to that. Kevin, I don't know. I think I've said all I can say about this.
Yeah.
I know I'm on a rant, but and few things get me so mad as seeing this kind of thing. But it is what it is. Anyway, Kevin, if you when you're in Vegas, I'm only a 4-hour side trip away from you here in Phoenix. So if you want to come down to Phoenix and go hiking, I'll put this invitation out for, if something goes wrong and you can't make it to the Grand Canyon or something like that, not that I see that happening, you're welcome to come down here. We got a spare room. We can do some hiking in the desert down here. But on the other hand, if you go to the Grand Canyon instead, I don't blame you one bit. So have fun.
Yeah, because I thought about the idea of coming down to visit you in Phoenix because I've only what's the Phoenix airport called? Like
Sky Harbor.
Sky Harbor. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I've only flown in and out of Phoenix in layovers, so I've always been like, well, I would like to see Phoenix, and I've got friends there too. Um, uh, but that might change depending on my petrified forest plans. So I'm working on that now. But yeah, but yeah, if my plans change, we might end up getting a drink together.
Feel free.
In 2 weeks. So
Yeah. Yeah, we'd love to have you here. Like I said, we had a spare room. I'm actually recording out of it right now. So you have a place to stay where you do some hiking in the desert. So let me know what's going on. And I've heard from some other followers that they're following my hikes down here and they want to do some hikes. If any of you are listening to this, and I will tell you right now, I am not the know-all be-all of hiking in the desert, but I've been coming down here for many, many years now. I know a lot of great trails. If you're planning on visiting this area sometime during the year, anytime during the year, give me a holler. If you're looking for a suggestion or have a question about a trail or something like that, drop me a line. I'll be glad to help you out any way I can. If I don't, I know somebody who does know more about this stuff than I do. Not that that's really hard to do, but I know somebody who knows more about these trails than I do. But anyway, happy to help out anybody who has a question or needs a suggestion. And Kevin, I don't know, do we have anything else we want to talk about?
I can go on a huge rant about the city parks budget, but we are done with that. But I am good. So
That's Kevin taking a shot at me for taking up most of the time on this thing, which I know I did. But I warned Kevin ahead of time that was going to happen, that we were going to talk about that. Hey, for those, not only city council members, if any of you listen to this think I'm wrong or off base or have a suggestion, contact me. Let me know. I'm always glad to listen to what you all have to say. Like I said, you can go to my website, click on the contact me thing. There's a form there. Fill it out. Say, hey, Bob, you're a moron, and here's why. Or, Bob, you're on the right track, and here's why. Or somewhere in between, like you kind of got it right and you kind of got it wrong. Let me know. Happy to hear it. All I ask is two things. Have your facts right. And I try to have mine. Sometimes we miss. That's okay. And don't be mean. And that's it. Kevin, good to see you again. And
thank you.
I do have a couple of guests lined up, but I'm sure we'll be talking to you real soon.
Okay, cool.
And I'll drop you an email like 24 hours ahead of time saying, Kevin, quick, can you do a podcast? I try to do better than 24 hours at a time. For everybody listening to this, I don't make Kevin jump through hoops. I usually text him like a week ahead of time. Can you do a podcast next week? This way we're all set. Anyway, folks, thank you all for listening. Thanks for listening to my rant. I hope you understand that this comes from a place of concern and a place of pride in our city. And I want to make sure that we have a city worth being prideful of. And I'm hoping that we find a way out of this mess for the next 10 months instead of living through what could be a devastating year. And let's not forget, watering is going to be cut back. And so far, we are so far behind on rainfall and snowfall that it's going to be a really tough year to begin with. So not going to get any better. Anyway, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, Kevin, thanks a lot. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. We'll talk to you next time.